Greetings, welcome to W11U3, the NBA accreditation. In the previous unit, we understood the pro forma of pre-qualifiers for accreditation. The outcome of this unit W11U3 is understand the evaluation and award of accreditation. The pre-qualifiers have been met, the SAR has been submitted, the committee has come and visited and inspected the programs. Now, how are the programs evaluated and how are the accreditation grades awarded to the program? So, as noted in the earlier units, NBA evaluates and awards accreditation for each program individually. As we will see in later units, NAC awards accreditation at the institute level. Institute as a whole is accredited or not accredited, but NBA looks at each program separately and awards the accreditation for each program separately. So, accreditation criteria are different for Tier 1 and Tier 2 institutes. Information regarding Tier 1 institute is presented in detail here. Please refer to the NBA website updates regarding details of Tier 2 institutes. So, what are the criteria by which the program is evaluated and accreditation is awarded? So, award of accreditation for Tier 1 institutes, as I mentioned, for Tier 2 institutes, please refer to the NBA website latest updates. Program wise evaluation happens. First thing, as we already noted, NBA awards the accreditation for each program separately. So, each of the 8 program wise criteria are evaluated by the evaluators and marks are awarded by the evaluators, typically 1 or 2 persons or even more depending upon the size of the department and cluster. So, marks are awarded by the evaluators and expressed as a percentage of the marks allocated for that criterion. The first 8 criteria we recall are the program specific criteria. Criterion 9, the only institute level criterion, is evaluated by the chairperson of the visiting team and is common to all the programs, but for sub criteria 9.8 and 9.13. While discussing the criterion 9, we noted this fact that while 9 is institute wide criterion, 9.8 and 9.13 are specific to the program. So, they do differ. The program evaluators are also consulted while awarding marks for these. So, the assessment for these criteria 9.8, which is program specific budget allocation and utilization, and 9.13, which is FPADS, faculty performance appraisal and development system. They can vary for each individual program. So, while awarding marks for these, the chairperson in general consults the program level evaluators also. So, finally, the marks are awarded as a percentage of the marks allocated for that criterion. Then the each criterion is awarded a grade based on the percentage of marks scored by it. Based on the percentage of marks, it is awarded a grade. So, the grade awarded is if the marks scored are greater than or equal to 75%, it is Y, which means fully compliant. The program complies with all the requirements and expectations fully. So, the letter grade awarded is Y. If it is between 60% and 75%, if the marks awarded, then the program does not fully comply with the requirements and expectations. There are concerns. It is a good performance 60 to 75, but there are concerns with some aspects of the program. So, 60%, 75%, that means that the letter grade awarded is C, concerns. Then between 40 and 60, it is a definite weakness. It is a definite weakness in the program. If a particular criterion got marks between 40% and 60%, that means it is definitely weak under that criterion. So, W is weakness. And then less than 40%, that means certainly the program is having deficiency. It is certainly having deficiency with respect to that criterion, not acceptable at all. So, the 4 grades which are awarded are Y, C, W and D, fully compliant, concerns, weakness and deficiency. Accreditation for 6 years for a Tier 1 institute. If the institute is to be awarded accreditation for 6 years, obviously the expectations are higher. So, the requirements are more stringent compared to the award of the accreditation for 3 years are not getting accredited at all. So, accreditation for 6 years, the requirements are like this. There should not be any deficiency or weakness in any of the criteria. So, that means that no criterion should have weakness or deficiency. That is, in every criterion the marks scored are at least 60% or above. So, there should not be any deficiency or weakness in any of the criteria, and at least of the 9, 7 criteria must be fully compliant. The 9 criteria, at least 7 criteria must be fully compliant with only concerns in the remaining criteria. That means, at least 7 must be fully compliant and there are 2 remaining, no, they can be only at the level of concerns. So, nothing at the level of weakness or deficiency. That is the first requirements. That is, Y is greater than or equal to 7, sorry, there is a typo, and C is less than or equal to 2 and W and D equal to 0. So, that is the requirements. The number of faculty having PhD degree available in the department and allied departments is greater than or equal to 30% of the required number of faculty averaged over 2 academic years. That is, the current academic year and current academic year minus 1. Notice that in the pre-visit qualifiers it was only 25%, but for the accreditation to be awarded for 6 years, the requirement is that the number of faculty having PhD degree must be greater than or equal to 30% of the required number of faculty. Then the student faculty ratio in the department and allied department should be less than or equal to 20:1. Again, here also there is a difference, more stringent requirement, averaged over 3 academic years, that is CAY, CAY minus 1 and CAY minus 2. Then again we get into the case where the department is running as a part of a cluster or the department is a standalone department. If the department or school is not running multiple UG programs and does not have allied departments which are running UG programs, UG engineering programs, then the department school under consideration needs either 2 professors or 1 professor and 1 associate professor on a regular basis with a PhD degree in the current academic year and in the previous academic year, CAY and CAY minus 1. This is similar to the kind of requirements that we saw in the pre-qualifiers. Case 2, if the department or school including allied departments is running multiple UG engineering programs, the department school under consideration needs either 2 professors or 1 professor and 1 associate professor on a regular basis with PhD degree in current academic year and current academic year -1. Additionally, now there is a cluster and other UG programs are running. So, the remaining UG programs, if there are n star remaining UG programs, then we need n professors or n associate professors in the department or allied departments on a regular basis with PhD degree in CAY and CAY -1 in total. That is, for this specific program we need separately the issue of 2 people, 1 professor and 1 associate professor or 2 professors. The remaining programs taken together as a whole need the required number of professors or professors and associate professors taken as a whole. So, that is how the requirement is stated. Then the HOD of the department in which the program under consideration is running should be appointed on a regular basis and should possess PhD degree in the current academic year. This is another requirement. Okay. And of course, exclude the number of professors, associate professors for the UG programs in engineering that have been running for less than 3 years. This already we discussed earlier also. Now, let us see what are the criteria for getting accreditation for 3 years. Again, this is for Tier 1 institute. Obviously, the stringency is less, the requirements are slightly relaxed for a 3-year accreditation award. So, there should not be any deficiency, that is same, but and at least 3 criteria must be fully compliant. Why? Notice there should not be any deficiency, this is common, but for 6 years there should not be any concern also, but here that has been relaxed. So, only D is not allowed to exist. No criterion should have deficiency, and the number of criteria which are fully compliant must be at least 3. So, certain amount of relaxation does happen with respect to this. Then the number of faculty having PhD degree available in the department and allied departments is greater than or equal to 20% of the required number of faculty, not 30%. So, again some relaxation happens. Then the student faculty ratio in the department and allied department should be less than or equal to 25:1, again some relaxation, averaged over 3 academic years, that is current academic year -1 and current academic year -2. Okay. So, that is how. Once again the 2 separate cases absolutely similar, that is, one, the department is not running any other UG programs and there is no cluster. So, the requirement is 2 faculty at the senior level, either 2 professors or 1 professor and 1 associate professor. If there is a cluster, once again for the program we need 1 professor and 1 associate professor or 2 professors. For all the remaining UG programs taken together, we must have adequate number of professors and associate professors. That is, if there are n such programs, then n professors and n associate professors or 2 n professors, they must be available taken as a whole. Okay. The HOD of the department in which the program under consideration is running should be appointed on a regular basis and should possess PhD degree in the current academic year, same as the criterion required for 6 years. Again, exclude the number of professors, associate professors for the UG programs engineering that have been running for less than 3 years. Okay. So, this will be the criterion for awarding accreditation for 3 years. And if the program fails to meet the criteria for the award of accreditation for 3 years also, that means obviously it is not eligible for 6 years, it is not eligible even for 3 years. Then obviously the program is not accredited. So, the award is not accredited status. So, if it does not satisfy the criteria required for award of accreditation for 3 years even, then the status is not accredited. So, that is how the award is, and these are all recorded and the data is available, and if the institute wishes to contest any of these observations or results, then it is free to apply for a kind of a compliance. Then we need documentary evidence for all these things. This we have been emphasizing any number of times in any number of units. Any claim that we make anywhere, we must have documentary evidence. So, the manual of accreditation indicates in a separate appendix the list of documents records to be verified during the visit for UG engineering programs. Notice that that list is only indicative. The committee can ask for any other document that it feels is required, but the list is fairly comprehensive and it is indicative of the type of records that the visiting committee would look at as documentary evidence. So, it is good practice for the institute to go through that list and see if all the necessary documents are available, easily accessible, properly indexed, properly following a good filing system, and they are all up to date. Okay. So, these lists are given separately as institute specific files and program specific files. Okay. So, the department can maintain these as required. Records of at least 3 years are to be made available wherever applicable. Wherever one is policy documents and other things, but wherever there are records of execution, then typically that is for a 3-year period. So, wherever applicable, maintain the records for 3 years. Then further, SCR indicates under each criterion the list of documents that must be available for inspection. Clearly, after every criterion we have seen there is documents context to be examined, assessed, very clearly listed. What the visiting committee is looking for as a documentary evidence of the claims made under that criterion. So, please go through that list again, ensure that all the required documents contexts are available for inspection by the visiting committee. Okay. Again, as we keep saying, all these lists are indicative only. Any other document, a record considered relevant and useful can be asked by the committee, can be kept ready by the department if it wishes to substantiate further or add any other information. If the visiting committee wishes to look at it, it can look at it. So, from both sides, the visiting committee can ask for some other information, additional information. The department can provide some additional information if it feels that it is relevant and useful for its cause. So, any other documents or records considered relevant and useful can be kept ready for inspection by the visiting team. If any data has changed since the submission of SCR, which generally happens to be the case in most of the institutes, because there is fair amount of delay between the submission of the SCR and the actual visit by the committee. Typically, it is not that always it should happen like that, but in many cases it does happen like that. Then it is possible that certain data has changed, particularly the data related to the faculty is likely to change. Again, this is not required and mandatory that they should change or anything like that, but most often it does happen that way. So, if any data has changed since the submission of SCR, maintain adequate number of copies of latest data ready for inspection by the visiting team. There is absolutely nothing to hide here. One should be frank and honest with all the data. So, if the data has changed, it is fine, data has changed, that is a fact. So, record that and provide the latest data, adequate number of copies for the visiting committee to examine, and provide the document evidence why it has changed. A particular faculty member has left during the period, give all the details when the faculty member left and what was the status before and what is the status after. And if a new faculty member has joined, when the new faculty member has joined, what was the process, what are the qualifications, and all the details of the faculty member which are expected, make all those things available. So, if any data has changed since the submission of SCR, maintain adequate number of copies of the latest data ready for inspection by the visiting team. At no point we should give false data or hide data. Always the data must be truthful at the current level, whatever is the valid one, you should indicate that clearly. Document evidence for the data provided in the SCR as well as the document evidence for the latest data must be available at the time of inspection. The data in SCR might have become invalid now, but at the time the SCR was submitted, it was claimed as a valid data. So, there must be document evidence to show that that was valid at that time. So, the document evidence for the data provided in the SCR as well as the document evidence for the latest data must be available at the time of inspection. All the document evidence must be maintained following the practices of a good filing system. Whatever be the filing system that the institute is practicing, it should be easily accessible, it should be easily retrievable, it should have been indexed properly, and the faculty all must be familiar with the filing system, so that anyone can retrieve that information quickly and without any hesitation. So, it is very important that not only the information is available, but it is filed properly, indexed properly, accessed easily and retrieved fast, that is very important. Data must be easily accessible and quickly retrievable, that is very important. NBA coordinators as well as the HOD and other faculty and staff must be familiar with the filing system. This is another important requirement. In most of the institutes and departments, they have separate faculty members as the coordinators for separate criteria. That is fine, that is a good practice, but that is only an administrative convenience. The rest of the faculty should not be under the impression that only the concerned faculty member should be familiar with the filing system and the data. Everyone must own the process. So, the entire program related faculty and staff must own all the processes. Though for convenience someone is noted as a coordinator for a particular criterion. Okay. So, a good practice is to have one or more mock accreditations. This is very important because the faculty, particularly if it is going for the first time accreditation, the faculty, staff, students, internal stakeholders, management, external stakeholders, they may not be familiar with the process. So, they must go through mock accreditations, preferably 2 or 3 mock accreditations, and the mock accreditation must be conducted in all seriousness like a true accreditation. So, you visit your visit by the mock accreditation team must be handled with all seriousness, and you must ensure that the mock accreditation team that is constituted is well experienced, well versed with the accreditation process and is thorough in its job. So, go through with all the rigor that a real accreditation would be there. So, a good practice is to have one or more mock accreditations. The general observations that the chairperson is expected to record can be helpful during the mock accreditation. The chairperson of the visiting team is supposed to provide a record of his or her observations. These are all listed in the manuals. So, they can give you guidelines on what are the things that need to be examined during the mock accreditation. In fact, any experienced mock accreditation team would be familiar with all these things, but further this can give as a kind of a help, and departments also can be find it useful to go through this list, because it indicates what are the areas where it should be prepared well. So, the first observation is the overall observations, the chairperson records them. So, name of the program, then average enrollment ratio, then average SFR, then number of professors in the department and allied departments of course, and associate professors, and number of faculty having PhDs. So, general observations regarding the programs, all the programs that the committee is looking at. The chairperson has the overall view of all the programs. So, the first is the general observations. Then the second is observation on general facilities and about the programs. So, the general facilities will include the program specific ones, laboratories and workshops and all that, but apart from that general public facilities like libraries, first year workshops, then other facilities like a good drinking water facilities, clean environment, then spacious classrooms, easy movement across the campus, all these things which are generally considered as the features of a good institute with good academic ambience. These all will be examined by the chairperson and they will be recorded. And the general observations about all the facilities, labs, libraries, etc., and a general review about the programs will be given. Then academic ambience including faculty in general. Okay. Then strengths, weaknesses and suggestions, they also would record these things, chairperson. And the observations are expected to include, it is not that it is a complete exhaustive list, there can be many other observations, but they are supposed to specifically pay attention to these aspects. So, status of imbibing the outcome based accreditation. So, basically the general principles of outcome based education OBE, which will include the curriculum, the assessment, instruction, which are all based on outcome based practices. So, they are all supposed to be examined by the chairperson and recorded. So, for example, formulation of the PEOs, COs and the mappings carried out and implemented. Methodology for assessing the attainment of outcomes, course outcomes, program specific outcomes, how are the attainments computed. So, methodology for assessing the attainment of outcomes, continual improvement processes status, what efforts the institute, the department is taking up to improve the attainments of all these values over the years. Then stakeholders, especially the faculty, head of the department, students, etc., awareness about the process. It is very important, as I mentioned, that everyone must own the process. It is not the responsibility of the HOD alone or the coordinator for a particular criterion alone to worry about the accreditation. All faculty, even HOD, the students, support staff, everyone must be aware of this process. So, you must ensure that the quality movement is an inclusive one, everyone becomes part of the process. So, the awareness of these processes among all these people will be examined by the visiting committee. So, your mock accreditation should include interaction with such people. So, the stakeholders awareness about the processes, then implementation of education policy like to what extent the institute has taken into account the requirements of NEP 2020, and if there are any other state education policy requirements, to what extent the institute is meeting those criteria. Then support to the implementation of institute industry linkage policies, that is also very important. Support to startup ecoculture, as we have noted earlier also, the startup ecoculture is nowadays considered as extremely important. So, the startup ventures, support for entrepreneurship activities, these are all considered as extremely important. So, the chairperson will record her observations regarding the institute's initiatives in all these aspects. Then, if any undergraduate engineering program in the department or allied departments has been running for less than 3 years, this we keep saying because it is important, then specify the year of the program's start, so that we will know exactly for how many years that has been running, because we will be excluding that faculty requirements and details. So, name of the UV engineering program and the year in which it was started. Then mock accreditation should consider all these aspects in detail, evaluate and comment on the preparedness for accreditation of the program under consideration. And it is extremely important that the stakeholders must receive the results of mock accreditation in a positive spirit of improvement and should not get into a defensive mode, like try to defend themselves and start picking up argument with the mock accreditation team. Mock accreditation team is your partner in progress. So, do not get into an argument with them, do not get into a defensive mode, and do not start justifying what you have done. Accept the results of mock accreditation in a positive spirit and then see how you can improve all the factors that need improvement as pointed out by the mock accreditation team. So, it must be conducted in a spirit of positive cooperation. NBA coordinators together with IQAC, if it exists, must hold awareness meetings for senior management. They also must be familiar in general with the importance of accreditation, what is looked for under accreditation, the vision, mission of the institute, like this. Then other seniors like members of board of governors, academic council, board of studies, all these people must be familiar. So, regarding the general principles of OBE, the general process of accreditation, vision, mission of the institute, strategic development plan, etc. So, it is very difficult to find probably too much time to spend with these senior people, but there must be enough interaction with them so that they become aware of all these issues, because their participation in this process is also extremely important. Coordinate with placement cell and get some of the employers to participate in such meetings. It is very difficult to get employers, but use the good offices of training and placement cell and probably even some alumni to get the employers to participate in such meetings and ensure their presence for interactions with the visiting team. Same thing with alumni also. Try to get some of the alumni at least for these interactions with the visiting committee. These are all difficult. Certainly, there are practical issues with respect to getting such meetings, but you must ensure that these people are available in some reasonable number for the visiting committee to interact. At the program level, hold frequent awareness meetings with faculty, staff and students. Not that the faculty, students and staff should memorize the vision, mission of the department or PEOs or anything like that, but they must be in general aware of the nature of the vision and mission of the department and PEOs. So, it is not that one should memorize them, but one should be aware of them, what they are and what they mean and what is the general focus of these statements. So, discuss the general principles of outcome based education, vision and mission of the department, PEOs, etc. As I mentioned, they need not memorize these statements, but must be aware of them in general. hold frequent awareness meetings with faculty, staff and students, and discuss these OBE, vision, mission and PEOs etc. Then coordinate with alumni association and get some of the alumni and students who become entrepreneurs with the help of EDC to participate in such meetings, and ensure their presence for interactions with the visiting team. Not only the alumni, but also the students who have become entrepreneurs. If you can get them, it would be wonderful. It does take some preparation. So, start preparations quite early and get in touch with all these people and ensure that they are available to you during the accreditation time. Explain the importance of being open, honest and supportive during the interactions with the visiting team. Many departments assign each criteria to a small team of faculty members, as I mentioned earlier, to coordinate with NBA coordinators and IQAC to ensure that all the necessary documentary evidence and records related to that criterion are available and filled properly. This is fine, a good practice, administrative convenience, it is acceptable. However, it is essential that all are familiar with all the criteria. We should not be under the impression that the faculty member or the small team concerned with a particular criterion alone has to worry about that criterion. Everyone should become familiar with the entire SAR. So, these are just some of the indicative initiatives. Take whatever steps are required, hold frequent brainstormings and take what are the steps that are considered necessary to prepare well for the accreditation. Okay. So, that completes our general discussion, and then in the next unit we will look at the general process of accreditation by NBA. That will be a quite brief presentation about generally the workflow during the accreditation process. Okay. Thank you. We will meet again in the next unit. Thank you. Thank you.